Welcome to the Counselling Tutor Podcast, the must-listen-to podcast for students of counselling and psychotherapy. Here are your hosts, Rory Lees-Oakes and Ken Kelly.
Hello and welcome to episode 31 of the Counselling Tutor Podcast with me, Rory Lees-Oakes, and with me is my erstwhile colleague in the world of everything therapeutic, Mr. Ken Kelly. How are you, Ken?
Oh, very good. It's great to be here, Rory. Good to see you over the wonders of Skype. We get to wave to each other, and of course, we're sending that wave out to all of you listening to this today. Great episode planned for you today. We're going to be starting off with something interesting. It's about holding on to your emotions when a client is maybe bringing something of great weight and you are emotionally moved by that. What do we do in the counselling room? Do we hide that away? Do we let it show? Interesting topic to debate. Moving on to theory with Rory, a good one today. We're going to be looking at the Karpman drama triangle, Rory. Sounds Bermuda Triangle-ish, but I guess it's not, is it?
No, it's not. It's not Karpman from South Park. It's Karpman
with a K.
With a K.
With a K.
Karpman. It's the vowels, my northern vowels. Karpman drama triangle. Yes, and it's a theory developed by Stephen Karpman, who was a student of Eric Berne, and it tells us a universal truth about how we can get really stuck in relationships and how those relationships can be quite toxic. And here's the thing, it is a TA theory, but as we'll see, it's just so useful for anyone practicing any modality of counselling, and it really helps you not get stuck in any of that kind of transferential stuff. So I'm looking forward to exploring that and giving away, Ken, just a little bit of real inside information on its development. So I'll leave it there.
I like that one. And you know, I went in with my tongue firmly in my cheek saying Bermuda Triangle. And I did that on purpose because what's really interesting when you look at the Karpman drama triangle, it is a place that you can get stuck and with the myth of the Bermuda Triangle, it's the kind of place that you go to and you never come back. And it's sometimes difficult to recognize when you are stuck in that triangle. And the theory with Rory today is going to show us what that looks like so that we can identify and break free of that triangle. And then we're going to be talking about managing your time as a learner if you're studying counselling psychotherapy. And we're specifically looking at the United Kingdom academic year. We're now in January. And as you quite rightly said, Rory, you know, this second, we look at it as the second half, but it's not really. The bigger half has gone. Not that there is such a thing as a bigger half, but the bigger portion of the academic year is gone. It's shorter leading up to September.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, different learning establishments for people in colleges, universities, it is more structured. If you're in a private training provider, it's slightly different. But the truth of the matter is that when we're now in January, we are now looking at most courses finishing in late June or the beginning of July.
Yeah.
And in between that, there's about 1, 2, 3. Easter, that's 2 weeks. In the UK, we have 2 weeks for Easter. We have a summer break, and we have a kind of mid-winter break, which is February. So, you know, that's a whole month gone.
Yeah.
The whole month. So it's literally 5 months to finish. It's 5 months for people to finish. So we're going to be talking about structuring your time and not getting to that point where you're so overloaded, you get stressed out. So we're going to try and help you out there.
I think it's going to be a good one, and it can kind of catch you by surprise because specifically if you're going into your final year of level 4 or level 5 and you're in placement and you're having to have supervision and maybe your own personal therapy and plus see clients and have that client contact, it can be a mess with all the assignments and portfolios that might need to be submitted. So going to be really good to looking at that time management there. But kicking off about emotions within the counselling relationship, Rory. And I know I've been in practice for some years now, and I've certainly had some clients bring material that has emotionally moved me because I'm engaged on an empathic level, and I really feel it.
Yeah, absolutely, Ken. I'll be grateful for Sarah Holland, who brought this question in our Facebook group. And if you want to join our Facebook group, if you go to www.counsellingtutor.com, there's 2 L's in counselling, click on the Facebook group. It's a closed group, so you knock on the door, we'll let you in, And then you can join, I think there's 4,000 like-minded people studying counselling and psychotherapy. So we're grateful for Sarah for bringing that up. And yes, absolutely, Ken, we are empathic people. We're working in other people's frames of references as near as we can get. And sometimes we will feel the emotions as strongly, I think, sometimes as clients do. And, I think that we should. We don't want to be practicing defensive psychotherapy where we're standing so far away emotionally from our clients that we're really not hearing them or getting them at any level.
Yeah, and I think that empathy is a circle in that we feel it, but then we reflect that back in such a way that the client gets that we understand it. And when we are bathed in that emotion with them and they feel that back, they feel truly understood. And there's a great resonance, and that's when you work at great relational depth. However, I guess there is a line, because what we can't do as counsellors, and I will gladly share that there have been times with clients where I've had a tear in my eye, and I've said, I've picked up a tissue in the same way as they might pick up a tissue and wiped my eyes and blown my nose, but I've always been the counsellor, and I've always kept control, and I've always realized that it isn't my stuff, it is their stuff they're bringing. And the sadness or the emotional movement within me was from standing with them.
Absolutely, Ken. And I think that's something that should be addressed in training, where a mindset is developed that actually these are the client's issues. Now, I don't want to sound too harsh or cruel, but they are the client's issues, unless, and this is the key thing, I think, Ken, unless they are your issues as well. And then we're into what we call parallel process, where immediately a client brings up some material that is happening in a therapist's life. So say, for instance, clients talk about getting divorced, therapists going through divorce, and before each of them know it, the therapist can't separate what's going on for them from what's going on for the client. And, that can happen because as human beings, we have things that go on in our lives. Counsellors are human beings like everybody else. So I think to answer Sarah's question, I think the first thing is don't be afraid of feeling emotion in the therapy room.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of it, because your clients will benefit from your reflection of empathy and the congruence and genuineness. I think the other thing is that, if it becomes overwhelming, maybe what I do, and I can remember a few years ago, a client saying something quite ambiguous to me, and it just breached me. I could feel myself getting really, really upset. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, it's all right, Rory, just pop it to one side.
Yeah.
Because this is how I work. Just pop it to one side. We'll have a look at that in supervision. And, when the client went, I phoned my supervisor up, and I went to supervision and I explored it. My supervisor and myself both came to the conclusion that actually, although it was a very uncomfortable experience, for me, it was actually the fact that I was working empathically with the client, and it goes with the territory.
Yeah, I think the message that I got from that share, Rory, is that take it to your supervisor. So if you do find yourself getting particularly emotional within the counselling relationship, always take it to supervision and explore it, so that you are checking out for parallel process, that you are checking out for counter transference, and make sure that it is a healthy emotion that you're feeling, which it is if it's kind of in an empathic understanding of where the client is at. And the other side of the coin is that this is not just about heavy, sad emotions. It can be about happy things as well. I have certainly sat and wiped the tears from my eyes with a client from laughter, where we both have been laughing in the therapy room, and that is two human beings connected, sharing emotion. However, I was always laughing and being with them in their frame of reference, and I think that's the importance, and that's worth checking in supervision when it comes up. Absolutely, Ken.
So I would say that it just goes with the territory, and good supervision is really essential. What would you say, Ken?
I'd say go and have the conversation on the Facebook group. Talk about it. Talk about your experience, what's come up for you in your own practice, and let's discuss it. I think it's a conversation that should be discussed openly. And I guess there's maybe, if it's not covered correctly in training, there's a misconception that we have to remain this professional, stable, unmoving presence within the room. We actually have to be the counsellor, and I'm doing that. I'm doing the what are they?
The inverted commas.
The inverted commas, yeah. But it's a real, specifically person-centered counselling. It's a human interaction and a very, very special relationship, and you will maybe from time to time feel your emotions being pulled. And the other thing is, if you start feeling different kinds of emotions, like anger or resentment or fear, note them and take those to supervision. So emotions in the counselling room, commonplace, but we do need to keep an eye on them, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, Ken. And if the same themes keep coming up and up and up, maybe that's one for personal therapy as well.
I love it. And the interesting thing is that Theory with Rory today, we're going to be talking about something that you may well see in your counselling relationships. And I know I certainly did on hearing this lecture. And I did this lecture with Rory after I'd been in practice for some time. It was more of continuing professional development for me. And I found it so helpful to be able to take the idea of the Karpman drama triangle into my therapy, and look at it in terms of what I was seeing with myself and my clients. Really, really interesting stuff here.
Yeah, the Karpman drama triangle is a really interesting insight, and it's not usually taught, in my experience, on person-centered courses. But in terms of a personal development insight, and in terms of understanding maybe where clients are, it is really, really useful. And the interesting thing is, just the knowledge of it, I think, can make such a difference in the way that you work with a client. And I'm going to go into that in depth. And also, I'm going to tell you just a little bit of insider information about how it was developed, Ken.
Without any further ado, straight in. I'm diving in to Theory with Rory.
Counselling Theory with Rory Lees Oakes.
The Karpman drama triangle is a social model of communication developed by American psychologist Stephen Karpman in the 1960s. Karpman was a student of Eric Berne, who developed the concept of transactional analysis. First published in 1968, this interesting piece of theory was used to explain how sometimes we can subconsciously take on roles that may not always be helpful to ourselves or others. Karpman developed his ideas to better articulate how a person's life script, the subconscious development of our life positions and beliefs, developed in childhood and carried into adult life, may play out when interacting with others. The theory could be best summed up by how we play out certain roles in situations of conflict. The theory is represented by a triangle, hence the name. Each of the corners of the triangle have a name: victim, rescuer and persecutor. The victim's position is poor me. The victim feels victimised, depressed, helpless, hopeless, powerless, ashamed, and seems unable to make decisions or solve problems. They take little pleasure in life or gain personal insight into how they may help themselves. The victim, if not being persecuted, will look for a persecutor to enhance their feelings of worthlessness and seek out a rescuer to come to their aid. The rescuer comes from a position of, I can help you, let me do it. The rescuer experiences guilt if he or she doesn't go to the rescue, yet his or her rescuing has negative effects, keeping the victim dependent and giving the victim permission to fail. The reward for the rescuer's behaviour is that they take the focus off themselves by projecting their energies onto others. This allows them to ignore their own needs and anxieties and acts as a defence mechanism which allows them to avoid their own problems, which they disguise as concern for the victim's need. The persecutor's position is it's all your fault. The persecutor is controlling, critical, blaming, oppressive, angry, authoritative, rigid and superior. So how does this play out in real life? A good few years ago I was sat having tea outside a cafe in Manchester. It
It was my regular morning ritual before starting work. Every morning, a homeless man, who I will refer to as Tom, would sit on the floor a few feet away from me with a paper cup begging for money. One particular morning, a smartly dressed woman approached Tom and asked him why he was living on the street. He replied he lived in County Durham and had come to Manchester looking for work. He had fallen on hard times and was trying to get the train fare home. She told him she would help him out, that everything would be all right. The woman then opened her handbag, took out her purse and gave him £20, telling him that he could get the train fare home and wished him luck. He thanked her, put the money in his pocket and they parted company. The stage was set for the classic drama. The victim had set the stage by begging for money and the rescue entered, offering to help. The next day I returned to the cafe, sat down and poured my tea. Sat a few feet away from me was Tom, who yesterday was given the train fare to go home, but was still begging for money with the same paper cup. The woman who yesterday gave Tom £20 walked past and looked visibly shocked that Tom was still there. "Why are you still here?" she asked. "I gave you money to go home." Tom mumbled a response. The woman, who was now visibly angry, slipped into the role of persecutor, saying she would never help a homeless person again, that it was his fault he was living on the street, finally stating in a very loud voice, "People like you will never change." Then, looking visibly angry, she walked off. Tom just stared into his paper cup, presumably absorbing the women's opinion of his worthlessness and reinforcing his belief of helplessness. The act was complete. Victim, rescue and persecutor. The Karpman drama triangle played out on a busy Manchester street. So how can we avoid getting into this triangle? Well, as in most areas of counselling and psychotherapy, the answer lies within us and particularly our self-awareness. If helping others is just a form of psychological medication for ourselves, then we are likely to disempower others and make ourselves feel even worse. Self-reflection, accessing our own therapy and being honest about our motivations for helping others allows us to step off the triangle and acknowledge that everybody has the capacity for change. However, it comes from within and with the right kind of support.
Thank you very much, as always, Rory. Really insightful. And I just want to let everyone know you can actually get the download, the handout from today's theory with Rory. And you can get that just by going to counsellingtutor.com. Click on the podcast tab, go to episode 31. You'll be able to download that straight away there. It's really interesting having the diagram of the triangle, having it on hand, being able to look at it. And it's really, what's interesting to me is, as a counsellor, we can so easily, Rory, fall into that position of rescuer. We can take on that role of rescuer. And it's not healthy, as you can see, because you get stuck in that triangle. And we need to be aware that exists. So very illuminating. Thank you.
Yeah, as you say, it just reinforces. If you rescue too much, all that happens is that the client becomes more and more helpless.
Yeah, becomes more just locked in that victim role. And it's interesting. You can see the parallels with TA and the ego states. It's like a sustainable transaction that is not healthy. I love it. I just love learning a theory with Rory. It's always so insightful. And we've got, we're talking of learning. We're in January right now. If you are in the United Kingdom, the academic year end comes quicker than you think it might. And this section, we're going to just be talking about planning and what that looks like. So just give us a recap, Rory, of what the rest of the academic year looks like.
Well, in terms of the UK academic year, universities usually start a little later and finish a little earlier. So, they'll be going about mid-January and usually finish, depending on which course and which university, about May. Further education colleges will start back in January, the first week in January, and they will finish in June, first week of July, depending on how the academic year fits in. But the key thing here is, Ken, we have holidays, and we have usually 2 weeks at Easter, a summer break, and also a midwinter, I think it's called, break. And if you add all those weeks up, that's a month. So effectively, you've got between January and June, it's literally kind of 4 or 5 months. 5 months, if my maths is correct.
Yeah.
And it can feel quite daunting, especially for learners who are studying for exams, or those who are putting their portfolios together. So we're going to share just a couple of tips on how to reduce that stress.
Yep.
And also just to say that you're not on your own. If you're sitting there, having looking at the workload and thinking, oh my goodness, you and every other learner on your level of course will probably be feeling the same stress.
Very much
so. It's normalizing.
Very, very much so. And this, what we wanted to discuss today is about the planning and what you can put in place now. And what I've found is that the more time you have, the more choice you have. If you leave things to the last minute, all that happens is your choices are reduced because you've got to do it and you've got to do it now. So the choices of what you can, key into for support reduce dramatically. So just one thing I wanted to share, which may be a helpful resource, is in podcast episode 6, Counselling Tutor, which you can find by going to counsellingtutor.com, click on the podcast tab, go down to episode number 6. We speak about assignments and some ideas that you can use when planning for your assignments. So that is a must listen to podcast as we're looking forward and managing your time and planning. But a lot coming up. And I guess it's about, how do you eat an elephant, Rory?
You eat it a bite at a time, Ken.
A bite at a time. And it may look like an elephant that needs to be eaten going forward, with everything that needs to fit in, with all the holidays, but all the assignments that might be coming up as well. And it's about managing your time. And if you can do it now and maybe put a year plan together, because this is the time to do it. We come out of the holiday season, New Year's resolutions, some people call them, but it's kind of a time that we maybe reflect on what we wish to do differently this year, and maybe a time for you to kind of jot down some ideas and a little bit of a plan that suits you and your study. And it's interesting, if you put 1 hour a day away and kind of use that for your studies, what a massive difference that can make, and how much time that can save in the long run. And I once heard someone say, well, I don't have an extra hour to give. And I guess then it's about having a look at how you spend your time. I was looking at there's a great website online, and it's called Binge Clock. Bingeclock.com is the site. It's really amazing. And what you do is you think about your favorite television show, go to Binge Clock, put in the name, and it'll tell you how many hours of your life you've spent watching that show. And it's incredible how much time we can spend watching television, but yet say we have no time. And it doesn't matter who you are, how wealthy or how poor you may be, your ethnicity, it doesn't matter who you are. We all have exactly the same time. Nobody can give you more time, and it's only about how you choose to use that.
Absolutely. And there's a few things that you can do to get control of your studies. And one of the few things you can do is to realise that the stuff that's within the college or university, that they are available to you within those times that they're open and that the course is running. The thing that usually causes the most difficulty in my experience is things like getting supervisors to sign off hours and getting placements to sign off hours.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a practice-based course, so if you're doing a level 4, level 5, maybe you're doing a degree, maybe you're doing a master's degree, and part of the component for you to pass is getting your supervisor to sign off your hours. This is what I would suggest. First of all, I would get my diary out right here, right now. Go and get your diary. It might be online or it might be a paper one. And I would make a note and say, I would ask my supervisor when they're going on their holidays.
Yep.
And I would ask my placement coordinator who's going to sign it off when they plan to go on their holidays. And then about a month before, I would write in, I need to start getting things signed off. So what can happen is that you think, I'll get things signed off. You then find out that your supervisor's going on holiday or your placement coordinators. Start getting all that information together. And also for things like final portfolios, some awarding bodies will ask for policies and procedures. So what I would do is start getting those policies and procedures together. And I'll give you a bit of an insight. What's the difference, Ken, between a policy and a procedure?
Right. So a policy is something that is written on paper, and it kind of outlines I'm trying to think of the right word. I'm going to just go to procedure. Procedure are the steps that you follow in order to enforce the policy.
Absolutely. And we can decode that. I'll put that on the spot.
Thank you, Rory.
It's very simple. If you think of policies and procedures in this way, okay, think of how you do your shopping. Okay. In our house, our policy is we buy from a certain supermarket. That's our policy because we decided that that's the place for us. And also it happens that my wife works there, so we get a bit of a discount. So that influences us. So the policy is we buy from that supermarket. But the procedure is how we get the groceries. So the procedure is sometimes we order it online, and the procedure is sometimes we get in the car and drive. Policy is how we expected to do something. The procedure is how we carry it out. And honestly, it's amazing how many people get confused with policies and procedures. Yeah. So start gathering your stuff together. Anything you're going to need for the end of the course, any kind of documents, anything like that, start now. Start planning it now.
Agreed. And you can look up what assignments you might be coming up. So, Rory, you've been covering very much what you might be doing if you are putting together a final portfolio. So maybe your final year of studying as a counsellor. But if you're not in your final year, you have got assignments coming up. Find out what they are. Start reading around the information required for those assignments. We've got a great resource. It's called Counselling Study Resource. It is paid for. We like to put out such great free information. Part of that is what you're listening to right now. This podcast, all our website is free. But we do have a paid-for service as well called Counselling Study Resource. You can find that by going to counsellingtutor.com, and it's right there on the homepage. Just click on that, and you can go and have a look at an overview of that. And there are gigabytes and gigabytes. Last time I looked, over 50 gigabytes, Rory, of supporting resources for counsellors and psychotherapists. They're there to kind of break things down and make it easy to find and easy to understand. Additional reading around the topics that you might be doing in your learning institution, and of course assignment help as well. So look at the resources that are going to support you. I'm not suggesting that you have to join the Counselling Study Resource, but look at where you can find support for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And just remember that it's always an intense time. Just make sure that you put some time aside for yourself. I know in our Facebook page, we see so many people jiggling families, work, placements, supervision. Both me and Ken have both done it. I'm not saying it's the same as your experience. It certainly won't be, but it is very demanding studying counselling, and and also if your assignments, you're going to get stuck for deadlines, might be worth talking to your tutors and say, look, instead of getting stressed out because your brain doesn't work when it's stressed, and then putting an assignment in that doesn't pass, it might be going to your tutor or going to your organisation and saying, look, can I have an extension? And that will give you some breathing space. There's nothing worse than writing an assignment when you're stressed, because as soon as you're stressed out, the part of the brain that you use to write your assignment just doesn't work properly.
Turns off. Turns off. Wow, what an episode. So episode 31, looking at our emotions within the counselling room, how they may or may not affect our relationship with the client and what we can do about that. Going on to that great theory that you brought for us today, Rory, the Karpman drama triangle. And of course, looking at something that I guess is really relevant at this time, late January, as we look at the academic year ahead in the United Kingdom, how we manage our time, our diaries and our busy schedules to fit our studies in. And I think it's been a great episode. While we were talking, I was just having a look at Binge Clock. I wanted something that I enjoy watching is Game of Thrones, Rory. And I don't know anybody listening to this if you ever heard of Game of Thrones, if you ever watched Game of Thrones, but I often find myself short on time. But I'm just having a look here, and I've spent 2 days and 11 hours of my life, Rory, watching Game of Thrones. That's the full series. If you watch them all, 2 days and 11 hours, and that's non-stop. That's not including the opening titles and the adverts. That is 2 full days and 11 hours watching Game of Thrones. And it just makes me reflect on how I spend my time when I say, you know what, I don't have time. I do. I've got that time to put aside for the planning.
Well, on that televisual bombshell, Ken, we'll bring this episode to a close. And as always, stay grounded and stay safe.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Counselling Tutor Podcast. Find the show notes for this episode on our website at www.counsellingtutor.com.